Well, hi, everybody. It is 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and you guys are coming in. I see everybody. It's working. God, it's nice when technology is all good. So, guys, come on in. We have here Colleen, who you've seen the last few days, who is my integrator. And Colleen, I'm so grateful to you for being in my life. You make every moment better. I have a whole song. That's a line. I just sang a song that's mine. So then you wouldn't have known. So it's like, what is she doing? In any case, Colleen does make life better. Monica's here, Muriel's here, Jennifer's here, Curtis is here. Curtis, you've been with me from the beginning. I remember all of it. How are you? Hi, guys. So come on in. And then two of my very close, awesome, fierce friends are here who also have podcasts, who also have so many beautiful things going on their own platforms. Jessica Zweig, Jill Stanton, welcome to the party. But everyone, could you be any prettier? What's happening? My God.
Says you.
Yeah, right.
Fresh to death.
Seriously. Right back at you.
When I first met Jill, I was like, you needed to be a VJ on MTV. Like, fresh.
Totally.
Yeah, that needed to happen. So come on in, everybody. Good morning. So tell me, what is your biggest aha so far? Like, we've been doing this now. This is day 4. Can you believe you've only known me 4 days? 4 days. Where were you, right? What was your life like before all this hotmess.com craziness? So come on in. What has been your biggest aha moment so far? We're going to give everyone about 2 more minutes to find out that we're live. And then we're going to get started. And we're going to talk today about how unbelievably epic your business can grow when you have a podcast. And both Jessica and Jill, in so many different ways, have allowed, I would say, for their podcast to be such an incredible way for their business to thrive and for their platform to make such an impact. And so we're going to talk about that. And they have, honestly, in so many ways, they are beyond where I am. And it's cool because we go to each other for different kinds of, oh, well, you're really good at this. Well, you're really good at this. And so it'll be cool to sort of like pick their brains and ask them about their strategies. And I think you guys are going to benefit so much from that. So, so Jill Stanton and Jessica Zweig, you're going to want to go follow them on Insta. You're going to want to go creep and look at what they're doing because it's really good stuff. And yeah, and girls, just while we're giving everybody 1 more minute, tell me things like this morning. What's one cool thing that you did this morning? Jess, you're on a trip somewhere, right?
Yes, I'm in Dallas. As you know, I launched my book this year in the middle of a pandemic, and I didn't get to go on a book tour. So I was like, F that, I'm going to do one anyway. So I'm now going around the country to select cities, doing tours, doing events. And so tonight's my event in Dallas. And this morning I was on a Dallas news station talking about personal branding and authenticity. And it was so fun.
I mean, I'm so glad I asked you what you did this morning. Oh, I was on the news today and then I'm hanging out with you, Kath. So could you have gotten a better ticket? You guys are just like free challenge. And then here's the girl who has marketing advice that
this is the highlight of my day. For sure.
Well, it's just because you love me. And you know what it is? We are nice to each other. I think the biggest surprise, and Jill, I'll come to you next because you really are like the epitome of this. The biggest surprise of making millions of dollars and meeting people who are in that space, who are women, is that, oh my God, they're the girls who are the vulnerable, nice girls, not the opposite. Like you kind of think on your way up that people somewhere near the top are not nice. And boy, what I have found is that when we're all together, we hold the freaking space for each other in a way that no one wanted to do that for me when I was on my way up. It's like the cattiness, like, all the ways in which no one's like shining your crown for you. No. But we do that for each other. I'm like so happy for you when you launch your book, it's like, and it's literally the most genuine joy, right? Jill, And that is the thing I love about you. I feel like in Jill's platform, that is the thing that you want to create, is a place for women to feel found and seen and celebrated. So
thank you.
What were you doing this morning? Anything fun?
Yeah, well, figures I have to go after Jessica.
Right.
How do I even top that? I was on the news. I went for a beach walk.
That sounds really equally as amazing, for the record, to me.
But here's why it's so bomb.com, because her beach walk is because she pieced out and moved to the Cayman Islands. That's literally something that you only read about in like the James Bond like chronicles. Like, it's insane that you are at that level where you just moved to the Cayman Islands with your kid and your husband, because that's so normal. All right, well, it's 10:05. I think that enough of you are here that we are going to get the party started. So we are going to do a little bit of, we'll just sort of go around. I'll start with you, Jess, and we're going to talk about your podcast. Okay. And first of all, tell us a little bit about why you started this podcast and how this podcast in any way grew your business. Let's talk about it. She's like, are you talking to me? Jessica.
In any way, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think there's just a little delay.
Yeah, my internet's a little shoddy, so let me know if you can't hear me. So my podcast has changed my life and business and life in all the ways. So I started my show over 2 years ago because I really wanted to talk to my audience. I wanted to have that. I was a podcast listener. I was a super fan of lots of specific hosts and just loved the intimacy and how connected I could feel to who they were. And I had been doing video and blogs and a bunch of other content mediums, and nothing really felt as powerful as content is concerned as podcast did. So I was like, I'm going to start my own show. And it's been the most rewarding. It's been the most fulfilling. And it's definitely been one of the most powerful strategies I've ever imparted in my business. It's definitely expanded my footprint. I reach people all over the world now. I find it to be a total portal into new community beyond social media. And it's absolutely driven my business. I've gotten clients. I've launched my book successfully because of it. I launched multiple courses and retreats through my podcast. But I want to just stamp that probably the most powerful aspect of podcasting for me has been relationship building. It is the most effective networking tool available. I have been able to sit down with New York Times bestselling authors, some of the biggest thought leaders. I had Marianne Williamson on my show this week. Marianne Williamson.
Amazing.
I would never have been able to have a conversation with Marianne Williamson in my life unless I had a podcast, right? Think about that. I had, Candace Bushnell, the author of Sex and the City, come on my show. And when it was time to launch my book and I needed endorsements, I reached out to Candace Bushnell because I knew her through podcasting, and her quote's on the cover of my book, right? So it's things like that have led to building my network as well as establishing my network. So one last thing I'll say too is I've been able to bring like prospective clients or current clients onto my show to kind of really give them the extra love and affection as, a partner. And that's deepened my relationships with my clients, and they continue to work with me and for lots of reasons, but it's a really powerful way to have a give back to the people that are, influential in your own life already. And so I can't say enough things about it. It's truly changed my business, yes, but most of all my life. And I truly mean that.
That is amazing. First of all, I saw that you had Marianne Williamson on, and I was like, all right, like that's a mic drop. That's incredible. And what you just said, I want to piggyback on because I didn't mention that. I mean, God, there's so many things we could have mentioned. We've only had in this boot camp, we've only had 3 days so far. But one of the things you just said, I do want to talk about, which is you just said I can bring my clients on, right? And Jess does branding. She has a personal branding business. And here is the thing is that we've done that as well, where I've brought on people who I've coached, right? And we've taken a slice. Obviously, we've asked permission, and the people who've said, yeah, absolutely. So we've brought it on. Do you know the response we get? Because people hear themselves in those people. Now, the other thing that's important for all of you listening to get is, I remember, just like Jess is right now promoting her book, which you should all get. It is an incredible book. The depth is there, but also the strategy. It's a nice thing that you were able to do both. But the point is that when I was promoting my book, I remember my friend Jeff saying to me, the best way to promote work is talking about the work, right? It's not just saying like, buy my book. It's actually like, here's the process behind the scenes of writing the book, or here's one chapter of the book, and here's one story I told, and here's why I told it. And what I want all of you to get is that your podcast allows you, one of the things that you can do with it is whatever it is that you are selling, whether it is a retreat, whether it is a course, whether it is a product, you could have an experience for your listener by talking to someone on your podcast, right? So like Esther Perel, who does that amazing, I mean, she's a sex therapist. She's off the charts incredible. Do you know the amount of requests that she told me she gets because she actually does therapy on the podcast? Like, it is off the charts. So of course she doesn't do that. She doesn't have to do that. But if she puts then out some kind of a group coaching thing, or she puts out a series of videos on marriage or sex or family or whatever, it's done because people were witness to you interacting with your clients. So it's an incredible way for you, Jess, to give your clients exposure, but also for you to get exposure, because here's the person talking to you about how you even help them figure out their branding and the process behind that and all of that. It's really cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, I mean, I think a lot of people start or won't start a podcast because they feel like, I don't have the audience, or who's going to really listen to it. And if you bring, say, your clients or your network, your immediate, like maybe it's not Marianne Williamson on episode 2, it's episode 137, but those people have people that they're going to share it with. And when it's showcasing your work and how impactful you've been on someone else's life in real life, someone you actually know, that has created such a boomerang effect for my business. It leads to more clients. And so for me, I have a sizable audience, but I really focus on the quality of my audience versus the quantity of my audience. And that really matters, not the vanity metrics. Like, the true moving of the needle comes from the quality.
Yeah. And we talked about that on day 2. And I was explaining to them how the Seth Godin example of the difference between the Grateful Dead and Taylor Swift is such a great example, because you want the engagement more than you want that vanity number, because it doesn't actually make the impact you think it's making, and it doesn't actually move your business the way that you think it is. And so I'm so excited to be inviting you guys right now into this conversation, because the 3 of us, me, Jill, and Jess, we are part of a larger girl squad, and we meet up, I would say, once every few months on Zoom. And Jill and I used to meet up like every couple of weeks on Zoom with a bunch of girls. And we have this sort of like behind the scenes millionaire girls. I'm taking from Jill, like that's the name of her thing. But we have this thing where we kind of like get to sort of like get into the nuances and talk to each other. And so I love that I'm inviting you guys in, because you're going to hear, like, you can make quantum leaps in your business. Like, this is what I want you to see evidence of. Let's go to you. So Jill, so what Jessica just left off on, I think, is a great place to start with you, because she was just talking about how people can get worried about, oh, I don't have a big enough audience. For years, the thing that Jill is so good at is you were one of the first people I knew who had built a huge membership. Huge. I mean, it was thousands and thousands and thousands of people paying you to be in your membership. She then shut it down, completely reinvented herself. Then they started doing launches and boot camps. And again, you have a way of being able to build tribe, to build audience, to build groups together. So let's talk a little bit about that. What makes that happen? And if in any way your podcast has helped with that, how so?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to touch on is something Jessica just left off on, is like one of the main hiccups I see. I'm sure you see it as well, Kath, and I'm sure you see it as well, Jessica, is the whole thing you just brought up is like, well, I don't have a big enough audience yet. And I think that's the big thing that stops a lot of people, is they're scared of being seen starting small. Right. But Kathy, I remember when you and I first met in 2018, and you were just a I mean, you were already off to the races, but you were at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you never let the, like, I'm at the beginning slow you down. It was like, I don't care if I'm starting small, because we all start small. Like, no one starts big, right? So just always reminding yourself of anyone that you might look up to or coach with or join their programs, like, they didn't start that way. And so starting to compare yourself to like who you were yesterday versus like who you put up on a pedestal, I think is number one when it comes to doing anything in business, and specifically with podcasting.
Such a good point. Seriously. Because
on podcasting,
I remember when you and I met, and I was so intimidated by you because I had like I had like 8,000 followers on Instagram. I just started my podcast. Maybe we had like 10,000 or 20,000 downloads an episode, something like that. And you were really, really, truly ahead of me, but you were so generous to me. And you were like, you're awesome. And you were like, you should come hang out with so-and-so. And I was like, she's so encouraging. And you just took me like, I'm not looking at your vanity numbers, I'm looking at your heart, looking at your soul, looking at your ability to hold this freaking space for me. And look where you're right. Look where I am, because I didn't say, oh, I'm intimidated, I'm not even going to reach out to her.
And I think that's your biggest strong suit, Kath, is like, you are consistent as all hell and you make asks. I think that's a big thing with podcasting is a lot of people tell me, well, I can't see the comments, but tell Kathy in the comments, like, if you've ever been like, oh, I don't want to reach out and ask someone to be my guest. And then they say no, and I'm going to be so embarrassed. And like the whole fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment comes trickling in, and it stops us before we even get started. But if you can learn one thing from Kathy, I feel like she's one of the best in the world at this, is like really owning who you are and putting that out over the airwaves, the video waves, whatever it is. Just, I feel like you are truly one of the best at that, Kathy. And because you are so yourself, people just gravitate towards you so quickly because they feel like they are just like in on the conversation with you, because you're never like, oh, I am a big effing deal and you guys are just my listeners, right? And so if anyone's listening to this and is on the fence about working with you, I feel like that's one of the best things they can learn from you, is not just the like technical piece of podcasting, but also like how to show up and resonate with people. I think that's a big thing that people overlook in podcasting, is like, how do I do this perfectly? How do I say the right things? How do I get the perfect intro? How do I get the perfect guest? But people aren't looking for perfect. They're looking for resonance. Like if you can resonate with them, you've got them, right? And so I think that was a big thing that helped us with Screw the 9 to 5, especially in the beginning when we started our communities, our free communities specifically, is just showing up and just keeping it really effing real with people and just not trying to be who we weren't. I feel like a lot of the times when people struggle with imposter syndrome, it's because they're trying to be something that they're not yet, instead of owning where they're at and just living in that. And so if I could lend one thing when it comes to community building or connecting with people, is simply just like show up as your whole self and allow yourself to be seen, allow yourself to be received, and allow yourself to be out there with your viewpoints and your message and your heart and, your opinions and your perspectives and your guests and everyone that you bring into your kind of ecosphere, your orbit.
I mean, this is why I love my friends. I'm just so grateful to know you. I'm so lucky to have friends like you, like Jess and I, we're voice texting back and forth the other day. We're going to have just like a brainstorm in a couple of weeks, and Jill and I do that. And we have like mutual friends like this, and this right here, you guys, I want to go back into this because it's so easy to think. And Jill, thank you for bringing this level of real depth to this boot camp. It's so easy to think. We live in a very, I'm going to say it, masculine world, right? Okay. And we each have inside of us like a masculine and a feminine side. We just do, right? That's part of the way that we are made up. It's so easy to think that all of it really comes down to strategy, and that what's most important is looking at, what are you doing? What are you doing? What action are you taking? What are you doing? And what Jill just said is a really important question, is who are you being? And I know it's not fancy and glossy and as sexy as, well, just tell me the steps. And so it is cool that we've spent the last 3 days talking about a lot of tangible, concrete steps, right? And algorithms and things you need to know, and all different ways that you can start to really put things in boxes and have it on paper. but the resonance, right?
Mhm.
Like that. And so I want to now, and boy, do I know that both Jess and Jill and myself, this is something that we prioritize in our life. Jill calls this inner game. Jess is like super connected to like wanting to be in the flow. Let's talk about what are the things in your life that have helped you to create in yourself that resonance? Because so many people who are listening right now, they're looking at us or they're looking at Rogan or whoever is their podcaster fave of the day. And there is something that called them here because they want to do that. But we all know that the biggest thing that would stand in anyone's way, it really wouldn't come down to the strategy, even though the strategy is important. It would come down to some kind of resistance. It would come down to some kind of imposter syndrome, some kind of fear, some kind of thinking as though there's something else you need when really something is not fully alive and aligned and in its fullest bloom and your fullest fierceness. So let's talk about that for a second. Jess, let's go to you first. And by the way, if you see somebody shooting, it's because you guys, another thing that's happened from my podcast is a television show. And that's what's going on a little bit behind the scenes right now. So my producers are here and they're very, very kind and sweet. So just know this is yet another thing that happens when you start a podcast. But Jess, let's start with you. Let's talk about how you find your way to your highest resonance. What helped you do that? And if you would be willing to be honest, where have you in the past been in your own way? And what helped you to fully come to center?
So it's funny you just talked about doing versus being, because my business is called SimplyBe, and I wrote a book called Be. And I often say that we are here to teach, but we are ultimately here to learn for ourselves. And so there's no way that I could have written a book about being unless I saw the other side and really experienced, the growth and the darkness, to be frank, that came with overdoing and overvaluing the doing. And I would say that the sort of front half of my career, I was obsessed with like the vanity metrics and being seen and the hustle and the grind, until my body broke down. And that included my physical self, my mental and emotional self. This was kind of in my early 30s. And that really took me on this deep spiritual journey to really understand who I really was without the sparkle accolades and titles. And that included a lot of releasing of things and people. It included doing real work with coaches and therapists and healers. It required picking up meditation and learning how to be alone and be with myself and my own thoughts and my own presence. And all of the above have become a true practice at this stage in my life. And without prioritizing that, I can't show up and do, which I do. I am very much in my masculine. I need to be to get, stuff done as a founder and a CEO of a business, but it doesn't run my life anymore. And because I've done the work, and I will always be doing the work, there's no like destination here, and have been courageous enough, I guess, to talk about it and to bring it forth onto my platform, on my podcast, but everywhere I go, that has allowed me to magnetize my audience. I have a section in my book called Your Vibe Attracts Your Tribe. And it's this, you've probably heard it before, and we're all energy, right? This is sort of science meets spirituality, but we're all vibration. And when we embody our own unique vibration, and by embodiment, I mean alignment, confidence, owning it, we become this frequency that attracts like attracts like. That's science. And so you're not going to be for everyone. When you step forward into this sense of being yourself, that's also been the work. And that audience is who's meant for Jessica Zweig, right? And beyond, and it grows and it flexes and it flows. But there's been such peace that I have found in being myself. And once I got there, and I can't really name like the exact moment, it's definitely been an evolution. But once I got there, everything changed. Literally, like my life expanded. I hit the 7 figures. I got the book deal. I built the team, grew the audience, like all of that happened. And those are like, yes, sort of the external things. But the best thing that happened was that I started to just feel a lot lighter, you know, and like myself and love myself a whole heck of a lot more than I ever have in this stage in my life. So
It's so
that's the truth.
beautiful. So beautiful. I often quote him, Gay Hendricks. He has a book called The Big Leap. If you guys haven't read The Big Leap, it's like this thin. You really should read it. He's a Stanford professor. He's helped people like Kenny Loggins and Bonnie Raitt and Michael Dell and lots of millionaires. And he's so wise. And at the beginning of his book, he says, how happy are you willing to be? And I've had him on the podcast twice. And on the second time around, he said, the real trick is, how good are you willing to let it be, right? And Brene Brown talks about this, right? Brene Brown has done enough research to know that the scariest emotion is not sadness and it's not grief, it's joy. Because once you're in your flow, once you're really letting go, once you're really like in that sort of sparkly, rarefied air, about 5 or 6 seconds in, your ego, your consciousness is aware that you just let go. And then there's this thought, why did I do that? Am I going to get hurt? Is this person going to let me down? Now I'm letting my guard down. Is this guy going to leave me? Now I'm letting my guard down. Oh my God. Now I'm realizing how grateful I am for my kids in this moment. What if they get hit by a car? Oh my God, right? It happens. And she studied this to know that it takes 5 seconds for the foreboding to come in. And so when you think about what Jessica just said and the way your facial expressions even change when you went from where you were to like, I let it in, right? 7 figures, my book deal, all this stuff. It's like, I want to ask you this question. How good are you willing to let it be? Because it's not about making it happen. It's about allowing it. You know, my rabbi, he's a Kabbalist, like a real Kabbalist. And he lives in Jerusalem. And he said, you've heard of the law of attraction, right? People talk about it. He said, the word Kabbalah means to receive. So really it's the law of reception, meaning it's already here. Are you freaking allowing it? And that's what Gay Hendricks said. He said, if I had to boil it down, it comes down to the courage to receive. And when you look at people's lives and they want to tell you every reason why their bank accounts are where they are on empty, and every reason why their relationship and their weight and whatever, and really, how willing are they to let go of their resistance and allow themselves to feel so good? How often in your own life, when someone says, you look good, or you're like, no, how often when someone's, let me get that for you, let me get the door. No, it's okay. It's okay. How often when someone's like, you know, what do you really want from your life? Well, all I need is, no. I said, what do you really want? No, I said, what do you really want in your life? Oh, I never answer it that way. I just say it would be enough if I just could, if I just no, right? Oprah did this show, I remember, where she asked women to write it down how much money they would love to make and then turn it around to the audience. So the other women couldn't see, but the audience could see what they had written down. And women wrote like 55,000, 75,000. One woman wrote $200,000 and Oprah goes, isn't it so interesting? Nobody wrote the amount of money where you could fully thrive, where you could fully, literally live a life. And it was like the tears that came, right? I remember the first time my husband and I stayed at our, I'm like a hotel, like I'm such a hotel like snob. Like I have to stay at a 5-star hotel because you can't go back, right? You just can't. I can't. Yeah. Also first class flying, not at all the same, right? Like can't go back. But the first time we stayed at the Hotel Bel Air, it was like $600 for the room. Now we spend like $3,500 a night. He can't even hear it. My husband's like, no, don't tell me what you spend. I'm like, you need to change the way you look at money, dude. Then you'll make more. But in any case, it's fine. He's got me. He's a good spot. But I remember taking the shower and crying because something inside of me was like, I can't believe I'm worthy of taking this shower. Now, whatever that's about is really what we're talking about in this moment. And I didn't even know we were going to go here today, but I'm glad that we are. Because in order for you to expand, we need to at least tell the truth. We need to at least be willing to say, yeah, I guess there is a little bit of resistance, or maybe a belief that it's not possible, or that there's too much of a ceiling still, right? Jill, what do you think about stepping into your own power? And what was it that you had up against you? And how did you come into yourself?
So let me bring it all the way back to 2018. But before we do that, because that really is where I kind of shed what I would deem my old me. And it's right before you and I met, Kathy. But I just wanted to touch on the topic of receiving, because we see this a lot with Screw the 9-to-5s audience, is kind of like what you're talking about. Like, people struggle to receive compliments, right? How many people watching this have ever been out to coffee or out to lunch or out to dinner, and your friend goes to pay and you're like, no, please don't take their credit card. Please don't take, let's just split it. Please don't pay. Please don't pay. And every time that comes up in our, when we're working with our students or whatnot, I always remind them, if you struggle to even accept a compliment or a coffee from a friend, how are you ever going to learn to accept money from a stranger? And so these are things that we absolutely have to work on as we build our businesses, as we build our podcast platform. Because think about it, if your podcast really takes off, and I feel like kind of circling back to the conversation that is kind of like the overarching message of this, which is best grown by being yourself. I would say I don't know anyone who has just had this like stratospheric, is that a word? Monumental rise to podcasting fame like you have, Kathy, in such a short amount of time. And the only way I think that is possible outside of the quality of your community is simply how you show up on those episodes. You bare your soul. You are a fantastic communicator and interviewer. Like, you always stay so engaged. You're so present. You ask great questions. And I think that's why your podcast grows. Like you said, it doesn't really have so much to do with the like tactics or the strategies. It's who you are being that really speeds up success. And so to kind of bring this full circle, who I was in 2018, before I really stepped into who I am now, was someone who was very, just like self-limiting. I was very concerned as to what people thought of me or what they thought of the brand, or does this look good? Or did I say the wrong thing? Like, if I really am honest, like around 2015, 2016, when we first opened our membership, I remember after all our hot seat calls, I would cry to Josh. He loved it. Because I was just like so worried about saying the wrong thing or looking dumb, or, being afraid of looking like we're starting small, which is what so many people deal with. And so in 2018, when I found myself on my closet floor, having a mental breakdown, like 39 weeks pregnant, and really over just about everything in my life at that point, I had this moment where I was like, is this really what I want it to be? Like, is this who I want to be? Is this what I want my life to look like? I'm not in a place I love living. We were living in, sorry, Colleen, we were living in BC, in Port Moody, BC, but it was like in the middle of the winter. You never saw the sun. And I remember just feeling so limited by the business we had built at that point. It was like I had put it in this little box and I felt like suffocated by it. And then I had my son and I was just like flooded with all this joy. And in that moment, I feel like he was the catalyst for so much change for me, because it just started stripping away. It's like all the F's I used to give just started like falling away. And who I allowed myself to be was someone who just is authentically myself. Like, I was so sick of trying to play the part of like the successful entrepreneur instead of just allowing myself to be seen as who I actually am. And so that truly was a big one for me. So some of the practices I use really is like, I call it catch, cancel, correct, but it's really just observing your thoughts, noticing the ones that are disempowering and no longer aligned with who you want to be, what you want to create, do, have experience, and catching those in the moment when they come up, because they will, like every day ad nauseum. And then as you catch them, like correcting them with what you actually want to believe. And so for me, that's been a process since 2018. I've been like religious with it. And then a second piece of that for me has been consciously choosing my first thought of the day. So how many of us wake up and it's like automatic default stressful thoughts, right? Like, oh, I didn't do this, or I have to do this, or blah, 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 or this didn't work, or I hate this, like we immediately engage in the like heavy thoughts, the default thoughts. And so I started putting a process in place where the second I was aware that I was awake, I would try to choose my first thought. And at the beginning, it was simply, I am safe. And then it evolved, of course. And one of my favorite ones is, and I say it all the time, and I'm the type of chick who gets everything she wants, and good or bad, right? Because it's pure responsibility. If I'm receiving something in my life I don't want, well, that's because I'm the type of chick who gets everything she wants. So my attention, my focus, my actions must have been on something that I wasn't really wanting to call into my life. I just wasn't diligent in my attention and my focus. And then on the flip side, if something's going really well for me, well, that's because I'm the type of chick who gets everything she wants. And so it just allows me to like kind of moderate or navigate my own attention, my focus, my vibe, so that I can call in using Jessica's stuff. Like if my vibe does attract my tribe, well, then anything I can do to just keep my vibe as high as possible and empowering and supportive, then that will call into my life, the people I care about, the customers I want to work with, the experiences I want to have, the people I want to surround myself with, the wealth I want to build, the freedom I want to create, all of that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, you guys, how good is that? Choose the first thought that you want to have in the day. It's unbelievable, right? And I do want to say something, which is very basic, but it's what relates to what Jill is saying, which is your beliefs, right? Fuel how you feel, right? And how you feel absolutely determines what action you feel like taking or not. Mm-hmm. And so if you think the way you thought yesterday, which makes you feel the way you felt, you're going to do exactly what you've already done, which means you're going to live Groundhog Day, right? And we know that we have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. We're always looking for evidence that we're going to somehow be let down. And so I love that I'm the chick that, things work out here. And I say to people things like, there are clues everywhere, right? Or it's amazing how when I meditate in the morning and I say, I want the divine, I want God, I want the universe to show me the synchronicity by the end of today, that when I do this, this actually works. It does. I find the evidence of that, right? But so much of this is important because we all get into imposter syndrome. And I think the most important thing that you two are doing for them right now, which is what I hope I'm also doing for you this week, is showing you a new possibility. Because we do become, James Clear says, we become the 5 people we spend the most time with. In fact, when I had him on the show, he wrote the book Atomic Habits. I said, what's the most important habit? And he said, who do you spend time with? Mm-hmm. And he said, it's because you become those people. And so it's really important that if you don't have models in your life or mentors in your life who model for you real residents, that their life is not just fake success, but like they're living a successful life. They're happy, they're fulfilled, they're in growth mode, their relationships, like things are, if you're not able to see that, why would you believe then that that's possible? We will only take action based on how much we believe is possible, period, end of story. And so Jess, to go back to you, like to use that as an example, how important do you feel mentorship, having mentors in your life has been, or how important have you seen your own self-mentoring people? How has that role of seeing possibility affected you in your life?
I wouldn't be who I am, where I am, what I'm doing without mentors, like 1,000,000,000%. I was actually just talking about this yesterday. When I met my mentor of my business, SimplyBe, this was 5 years ago. He was the former CEO of the Chicago Tribune, one of the most like well-respected, well-known executive men in the city of Chicago. And I got by destiny, a meeting with him. And I had just started my business. I had 0 revenue. I had 0 product. I didn't even know what my website was going to be. I had no confidence. And to this day, I attune to the core wisdom that he has given me. Mentors, are there to see beyond what you can see in yourself and to push you and to hold a higher vision and to reflect back to you what's possible and call you to a higher standard and to be there when you need them, and to cry on their shoulders and to celebrate with them. And I'm very blessed. I have a couple core mentors. Tony is one of them. And as a mentor myself, as I have grown my business and now I have, a really young, predominantly younger team, I find it to be such a responsibility, such an honor and a privilege. In fact, one of the best things I've ever heard about mentorship. I don't know if you know Grant Achatz. He's the chef of Alinea. It's like it was the #1 restaurant in the world. So he had a chef de cuisine, this guy named Curtis Duffy, who opened up another restaurant called Grace in Chicago. And they made a Netflix documentary about it. And Alinea had 2 Michelin stars. And Curtis Duffy was going after 3 very boldly. He had worked for Grant for years, worked under him, and was ready to do his own thing and kind of wanted to conquer it himself. And they interviewed Grant Achatz for this Netflix documentary. And they asked him, how are you going to feel if Curtis Duffy gets 3 Michelin stars and you only have 2? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, well, if the protege doesn't outdo the mentor, then the mentor did do a very good job. And I have the chills. I think it's such a responsibility to be a mentor. And we're not here for ourselves all day long. We're here for the future and what our children's are going to inherit. And we get to do that with the way that we show up and guide others. And I'm very blessed that I've had people I can call a mentor, and I really am dedicating kind of my life's work to paying it forward in every way I can. So mentorship is a passion point for me.
I want to say 2 things about it, and then I'm going to go to Jill. 2 things. One is how amazing that each of us who just literally decided to start where we were have now become leaders for other people. Nobody came along and said, you're ready now, Kath. We're going to mic you up. It was like, I decided that I was going to lead. And that's what's beautiful about leadership. Think of anybody in the world, like, the woman right now who decided to be my kid's room parent, right? She's going to be in charge. I was like, that was really generous of you to take that on. Cause one of the parties she throws, someone's going to say, that wasn't COVID safe, or why did you do that? Like, leadership is people are going to, you got the ball, someone's going to come tackle you, right? That's how it works. So leadership takes courage, but how generous, right? And she decided to just do that. And in so many ways, you guys who are listening, you don't realize how the stories of your life, the chapters you've already written and closed, are for somebody else, everything. And because you're not a celebrity, because you're a regular person, it will actually land for them. And that is incredible. The second thing I was just going to say before I go to Jill is my friend Alex Benayan wrote this book called The Third Door. And he interviewed Steve Jobs and Maya Angelou and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and Lady Gaga, a bunch of people. And it was because he was in pre-med and he didn't want to be a doctor. He dropped out of USC and said, I really want to just learn how to be successful. And he couldn't find the book that he really felt really would help him get from where he was, which was where he thought nowhere, to really getting there. So he was like, I'll write that book. I'm going to go interview the people I think are most successful. And after interviewing Spielberg and Lady Gaga and Angelou and all these people, he said he realized, and the reason he calls the book The Third Door is because he said, I realized that all those people went in through the third door. That he said, it's like a nightclub. There's always a line around the block. Everyone's just standing there, just waiting to get in. And then there's the second line, he says, for the VIP list, your last name's Kardashian, you're, the guy who owns the building, your mom knows something, whatever, you're on this VIP list. He said, but they weren't on the list. Warren Buffett wasn't on the list, right? Lady Gaga, she didn't get on the VIP list. He said, what they all had in common was they took the third door. He said, because everybody knows, if you're using this analogy, that these people waiting in this first line and the second line, he goes, there's always a third way in a building. There's a side door, there's a back door, right? And he said, what's fascinating, Kath, is that finding the third door wasn't the big, aha. We all can find it. He said, the hardest part of becoming this kind of successful person is being willing to leave the line. Because it's so subtle that you don't even know you've been sort of conditioned to believe, who are you to leave the line? Who are you to think you're going to actually go through the third door? Don't you leave the line. You know what happens when you leave the line. And people, then what? Then they have to deal with the fact that they never left the line, and you have to deal with the fact that you're being disloyal or whatever it is. So having mentorship in my life not only showed me that there was a third door, but gave me permission to leave the line. And I did watch. I remember my mom, who's probably on watching, and she's so humble, she'll admit, before I left for LA, she said, it doesn't happen for people like us. Why would you go? Like, it's not going to happen. I remember my aunt begging me, go, you're a smart girl. You're going to waste your time. Just go do something. Go get a graduate degree. Right. I remember people in my life saying to me, like, what are you doing? Or when it first started to work, like my songwriting, it was like, well, you got lucky, or, well, you'll see, it won't last forever. Don't spend that money, save that money. You're not going to keep it going. Like, okay. All right. And I would cling to whoever was my mentor in that moment, whoever would help me start to see, just like washing the windows, and you see, oh, I didn't realize how blurry my glasses were. And then there'd be another level of expansion. And then someone else would come in and I would go, wait a minute, but what's that about? Look at her vibe. Ooh, and what's her life look like? And oh my God. And it's the reason why we all became friends, and why we want to be around each other, and why we keep people like that in our life. But how many of you right now want to leave that line? Right? So Jill, for you, I mean, you've been mentoring, you and Josh have mentored thousands of people through Screw the 9 to 5. You've helped thousands and thousands of people leave their 9 to 5 and go from what they didn't think was possible to actually having a life where they could move to the Cayman Islands. Like, you live it. What do you see in mentorship that gets in the way for people, and how do you move them across that mountain?
There's so many pieces I love about mentorship, and so many different ways it's played such a huge role in my life. I do want to quickly speak to leaving the line. I feel like a lot of people get in their heads around leaving the line because they have people in the line with them who are kind of saying what you're saying, like, oh, well, like, do you really want to do that? Most people fail. And I think that when you step out of the line, it's almost like magnifying to them that they have the potential that they aren't willing to lean into. You know what I mean? And so that's why they say the things that they say to us, to kind of like subtly, subconsciously undermine our big dreams so that we don't go for it, because most people won't go for it, right? It's why entrepreneurs and self-made millionaires and successful people in general, it's why we're the warriors, right? Because we don't let other people's judgments or opinions equal our truth. And we kind of navigate through our own internal compass as to what we know to be true and what we are willing to go to bat for and who we want to be. And that is what gets us to take that first step out of the line and look for the back door. So I just wanted to offer that as well. Mentorship in my life, man, mostly it's helped me spot blind spots, open up to new perspectives, and understand myself in a deeper way. My own triggers, my own underlying beliefs that I believe so hard I didn't even know I believed them, right? So for me, one of those biggest ones was success equals hard work, or hard work equals success. It's something I learned from my dad. And I remember our first ever 100K profit launch. And I was like, are we Oprah rich? Like, is that what just happened here? Because we just made $100,000 on the internet. And I was like momentarily stoked with that, until it brought like all these internal beliefs crashing down, because it challenged, like, it was the easiest launch I had ever done. And it challenged hard work equals success. And I was working with a coach at the time, Kelly, and she asked me that exact question. Who did you learn your definition of success from? And I was like, well, my dad. And she's like, and what did he believe about success? And I was like, that it equals hard work. And she's like, and this wasn't hard work. And it like fractured that foundational belief that you had. And so like, I was like internally combusting. I couldn't even wrap my head around what was going on for me. And I'll always remember that moment. It was like, when was it? It was May 2016. I was in Toronto in my bedroom, and she asked me that question, and it just forever changed the course of my life. Outside of that, like, I remember Josh working with another coach, Jim Fortin, in 2018, right before we kind of like did a giant reset to our business. And I believe it was because of him working with him. And Jim was the first one to introduce us to the whole concept of fear of judgment. And then I could start to see that and how it was playing out in my life. And so it was just like this giant magnifying glass that allowed me to see where I was holding myself back so that I could step into who I really wanted to be with confidence and true ownership. And so for me, mentorship is everything, like spotting the blind spots, offering different perspectives, holding the higher vision for yourself than you could possibly ever see. I think that's one of the beautiful benefits of coaching and mentorship as well. And having someone who holds you accountable, right? Like obviously everyone in here who wants to start a podcast, we know that you guys have to be the one to record it and hit publish and get it on iTunes. I know that for sure. But one thing I also know is that like with Kathy in your corner, there's no way she's just going to let you phone it in and do nothing, right? She wants you hitting publish. She wants you going live, right? And so just having a cheerleader or a coach in your corner like that, who can help you dust yourself off when things get hard, and they will, right? This is business. It's like a game for the crazy ones, right? Having a coach in your corner who will be like, don't worry about it. Don't let that set you back. Just pick yourself back up and go again. You know, like having that kind of support and that kind of cheerleader in your corner is everything to so many entrepreneurs.
Well, that's so nice of you to bring that back to me. That was really generous. But all of these comments, I mean, this is what's so fun about these conversations. I told you guys when I podcast, I'm this way. Like I never have an agenda. I just know that I really want to be curious and make space to like allow your light to pour in. And so it's so cool that it went in this different, cool way. I do want to remind you guys, we're going to go back into some more stuff here for a second, but I do want to say, yes, for anybody who didn't hear the memo, we've already had so many people joining It's Your Turn to Podcast. It's really exciting. It's like one of our biggest launches ever right now. It's so cool to see all of you taking the mic. There's about 54 people who already said yes. So welcome, you guys. Welcome to It's Your Turn. We're going to start a week from Monday. I also wanted to mention to you that there's 2 guest experts coming in, Julie Solomon and Ali Kazaza, who both have phenomenal podcasts. Ali started her podcast when she was literally like dirt poor. She couldn't even have the money to buy feminine hygiene products. And she was just starting to go live and starting her podcast, and now has brought in also, she's in the 7-figure club and such a lovely person. And Julie is phenomenal at teaching you how to get publicity. One thing that I want to say about this program, but also I want to bring it back so we can leave them with a little bit more strategy, is, you just don't know what you don't know. And when somebody says to me, they started their podcast and they are so frustrated they're going to give up, I say, let me just take a little audit, right? And I kind of look and I go, well, here's why it's not working. See, when you have mastery over something, I can do it like that. Jess can look at your Instagram right now and she can say, this is why you're not converting. Your Instagram bio is not clear. This is where you're losing people in your story. Like, this is what we know how to do. When Jill and I talk shop on launches, see, we talked about how to monetize your podcast, right? I gave you ways that you can do that. We went into as much detail as we could. But if you sat with me in this course and we go into it, I'm going to say, did you nail the promise of that deliverable? Did you sell people what they want and give them what they need? Before you went ahead, did you pre-sell it? Did you test it? These are the things we literally don't know that we don't know. And once you've been either paying your dues through trial and error, or once and Jill, you can hop off if you want to. She has to run to
Bye, friends.
I love you.
Thank you guys so much.
Everybody take a screenshot of her post, tag her, follow her. She really is someone to be followed. She's amazing. But
bye, guys.
The truth of it is that when you are launching or podcasting or trying to get on people's shows, or Jess and I were talking shop about her book launch, right? Like, I've had a book launch and gosh, there's so much. I was just asking her what she could teach me about so many of the things. But when you've been down that road, and what did I do? What did I do when I launched my book? I hired a coach who had launched a book and another book and a bestseller and a bestseller. And I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't have even thought to pre-sell the book with these kinds of bonuses, and to then have new bonuses, and then to then do sort of live stuff, and then to get a street team on my team. So people were right. Like, this is what we're going to teach you. And It's Your Turn to Podcast, things that there's no way you wouldn't know that you don't know, because you haven't mastered it. Because what does Malcolm Gladwell quote? The research, it takes 10,000 hours before you have mastery. So if you want to save the time, right? you find someone who you resonate with. And again, I'm not everybody's person. So if somebody else, there's so many other podcasting courses out there besides mine. And if that person resonates with you, that's the person that you should learn it from, right? But you should learn it as opposed to just like, oh, I'm really into making this. I see that Kathy and Jessica and Jill and a million other people have made a lot out of their podcast, but I'm just going to wing it. It's really important. I'm going to wing it. I'm going to DIY it. I'm going to duct tape it together. No, you're going to train like an athlete trains for the Super Bowl. You're going to show the hell up for it so that you commit that the outcome is actually, there is an intention and an elevated emotion with a clear intention, and you add strategy to that. You're going to see yourself there. It's actually going to be a thing rather than another one of those things that you can be frustrated with yourself because you didn't actually do it because you didn't know what you didn't know. And the one thing I will say is that I like to do what I see is not in the marketplace. And so you guys, I'm literally shooting a TV show right now. You guys will see it soon. I'll let you know when it's going to be on the network, but we just started shooting. I could very easily be like, I am going to do a podcast. I'm going to record videos. And my team was like, it's probably what you should do, Kath. And I was like, yeah, except you know my heart. And in order for people to be obsessed and actually have a transformation, I can't just do videos. I have to be generous. I have to show up and I have to be with them on Zoom, because then when you have my presence and it's live and you have a mentor session that week and you have a session with my producer, oh, it's going to be so hard for you to fail. It's going to be so hard for someone to feel unseen. It's going to be so hard for you to be left behind. And that I have to create it that way. And so when people say to me, yeah, but it's almost $3,000, Kathy, it's $297 a month. I'm like, correct. So what will it cost you to not do it? Right? What will it cost you to not do that? And then you just decide, because if you want to actually master it, if you want to know all those ways to monetize, how are you going to do that launch? How are you going to warm up your audience so that you're not abrupt and salesy, but that it's a natural progression? How are you going to know when to make your lower tier offer, your bigger tier offer? How are you going to call those sponsors? How are you going to reach out to them? How are you going to know how to not be pushy, but how to have a value add when you reach out? What are the nuances of the ways that you're going to really podcast also, so that Jill said it resonates? Jess, is there anything you want to say about all these pieces of strategy, or any one little last tip that you have seen that really has helped you monetize your podcast? Anything at all, the floor is yours.
As you're talking, I'm just like clapping inside, because you're speaking to one of the most core aspects to a successful podcast, which is consistency and commitment. You got to show up every week to the mic and speak to your audience. And how many weeks is your course, Kath? 8, 12?
My program is live for 8 weeks. And then there's a 6-month container of support from my producer and my team.
To the people who are listening, that is such a gift to have a partner to help you integrate that consistency, to get you started with accountability. Because I will tell you, I have a lot of clients who also want to do podcasts, and very few of them stay the course because it's a lift. I think there's some crazy statistic, like out of the millions of podcasts out there are only like a few that make it past 10 episodes. And it's because it takes,
right, guys? What's it called? Good students? It's called pod fade. Yeah. It's more than 70%. They don't even go past 8 episodes. Yeah.
It's real. And so the fact that Kathy has created this course that kicks you off with a bang of consistency, accountability, and partnership, that is such a gift. And, beyond just her being a gift, really, I have been through my own struggles this last year with my business. And this woman has reached out to me heart to heart, so sincerely, to lift me out of that cloud and to see the light. Like no one can really do it like her. And I just have so much gratitude for you. And the fact that you've created this course and this container to do that to so many people in this space that, is so amazingly exciting right now, but not a lot of people so many people feel alone in it. So to have the tactical strategic guidance on top of Kathy Heller's soul, I couldn't think of a better program, to be honest.
That's so sweet.
I'm serious. This is so exciting you're doing this.
That's so nice of you. Well, for those of you who are saying to yourselves, I have questions I want to ask Kathy, and I want to pick your brain, and I want to take this from listening to like getting into more nuances. And maybe you have a question about building an audience or strategy or monetizing or courses or ebooks. Tomorrow, Colleen, do you have a link for them? I'm going to announce the link. Tomorrow, we are going to be back here, right here, same time, same place, unless you want to be sitting like this with me, and like Jess won't be here, but the way Jess is sitting here with Colleen and myself, we're going to make space. So there's going to be kathyheller.com/party. We're going to have a wrap up. I'm going to sort of quickly give you guys like a lightning round of a few things that I want you to remember that are going to sort of put it all together. And then I will be with you on Zoom. I can unmute some people. I can see your comments. We can speak sort of face to face. I can get as many of you as I can. We have room on Zoom for about 1,000 people. So anybody, people are already joining. We're going to do this tomorrow, but Kristen, welcome. So cute. She's like, I want to come on and ask a question. We're going to do this tomorrow. I should have answered. Anyway, it's really good to see everybody. So yes, it'll look just like this. It'll look just like this, but there will be 1,000 of you or however many of you. And if there's any overlap, you guys can come into the Facebook group and watch from there. But yes, it's so fun. It's going to be just like this, and we'll get to hang out and all of those things. So for tomorrow, if you want to join, just like these brave girls are, then you can join us at kathyheller.com/party on Zoom tomorrow. And if you want to watch from Facebook, you can just show up on Facebook. I love how much there was such an eagerness, like, Kath, I'm coming. I'm like, hugs. You guys are adorable. And if you want to get the bonuses, and here's the thing, if you're going to join my program, if you are like, yeah, I'm kind of picking up what you're putting down. If you're going to join it, you may as well join it by the end of today so that you get the bonuses, which are, you guys are so cute. I love seeing your faces. Aren't they gorgeous people? I'm telling you, I get to attract the nicest humans. You become like the people I wish I was friends with in 7th grade. So if you are going to join, you may as well join. You're going to get the bonus with Sherry Salata. It's going to be Sherry Salata, executive producer of Oprah. It's not bad. We're going to do a 1-day live. And then also you're going to get a summit on how the 5 steps to make $5,000. What are the fastest ways? Look at all these sweet faces. I love you guys. So you can go to kathyheller.com/join, kathyheller.com/join. If you want to join, it's your turn to podcast, because it is your turn, for God's sakes. There is enough room up here. I'm telling you, me and Jess and Jill and all of us, there is enough room for you to get to podcasts, for you to get to do your thing. And so we want to see you guys. We want to see you guys doing you. We want to see you guys out in the world, building a business, right? We want to see you getting to do stuff in your pajamas, having the time of your life and feeling like you are stepping in. And Colleen, is there anything else that you want to say about any of the things?
I just really want to sort of echo a lot of what Jill and Jessica have been saying today. You guys can feel it this week in coming into this container and hanging out in Kathy's world. The energy of this group and the fire of it, it's not typical. You don't just find that every day of the week. And when you are within that and you get to hang out in that kind of container for 8 weeks and learn from someone as extraordinary as Kathy and be lifted into that next level by her, you just become, it's that being thing, right? That they were both talking about. You become this version of yourself that is so beautiful and extraordinary and has so much impact and reach for other people. It's such a gift. So yes, it's about podcasting. Yes, it's about sharing your voice. Yes, it's about, monetizing. And it's also about you and stepping into becoming this authentic part of yourself that is so true and so honest and so relatable. It's just a gift on every dimension you can imagine. So
that's so nice. And Jessica's shaking her head. I want to give Jessica a chance to hop off. She's got interviews. She's got stuff to do. Jess, I love you so much. Go follow her online, Jessica Zweig. You're going to learn so much from her. She's such a generous soul. Thank you for being with us. You're the best.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
Love you so much. And Colleen, that is so nice. And it really is so true. I have to say that I tear up a lot in our calls, and we always start with a dance party. There is a lot that goes on in there where I say, gosh, I wish everybody who wanted to leave that line was sitting in this room, because once it's something you just feel, right? It's like you feel it in your body. There's no going back. And I do hope that by now, and I know you haven't known me that long, that I hope that there was something I said where something clicked and now you're like, I know too much to go back. I'm not going back to sleep. I'm awake and I want this. And this wasn't smoke and mirrors. You can kind of feel it, right? We're talking about something really concrete, like starting a podcast. And we're talking about something that you can do, like starting a podcast. And we're talking about it over and over, where you don't need to worry about having 50,000 people first on your email list, and you don't need a fancy funnel. And we're talking about how the intimacy gets created and the power and how many people you can impact. So instead of underestimating what you can do and overestimating what it would take, think if you had 20 seconds of pure courage, 20 seconds of courage. Could you muster 20 seconds of courage? And that's it. The rest of your day, you could be scared. That's okay. It's hard to be brave. But what if every day you could muster 20 seconds of courage and press record? What if every day you could muster 20 seconds of courage and at the end of your episode say, hey, if you want to hang out and discuss this live, join my Facebook group. And then what if those moments of courage led you to being more worried about being generous and holding for other people? And what if then by holding for other people, the greatest reward of your life is that people were waiting for you to raise your hand? And then what if by raising your hand, you get led to a life where you get to have it all? Like you get to eat food that you like, have a nice family life, and make really good money doing something that doesn't feel like a chore. And then you stop and you have to ask yourself, why did I think that was so much to ask? It's like, are any of us asking to buy an island? Are any of us asking to be king of the whole world? Like, what are you really asking from this life? You're saying, could I just really feel like I am my greatest potential? Like I'm actually doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing? Could I just actually feel like I am thriving? I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like, really, is it so much to ask that literally think about this. Everything in nature is designed to bloom to its fullest potential. Every redwood tree is designed to be as tall as it can be. And so is every human being. So what stops us from being our bravest, most powerful, most vulnerable, most beautiful, most epic self? Us, right? Do you know that the word desire is a Latin word that means of the Father? So if that dream is put in you, that's all you need to know about the fact that that's for you. It was given to you because there's a little nudge from your soul saying, take the mic, be a leader today. And you're correct. Your soul is saying, you're correct. You're not just ready. You're over ready. You're over ready. That's what I see. I see people saying, I'm not enough, I'm not ready. And I'm like, you're right. You're way over ready. And that's the problem. You've been overthinking this to death. You've been in your resistance too long. You forgot how to actually trust yourself. And when you can, you're going to realize it's all been sitting here, waiting for you to allow it in, waiting for you to stop telling yourself every morning, this is going to be the same as it was before. And there's really no point. And I'm behind and it's too late. You guys, I thought I was going to be a rock star. And all I wanted to do my whole life was sing. And my voice it's okay. Like you guys are so nice, like your voice. I'm not Kelly Clarkson. Okay. I'm not going to blow out the Staples Center. And I got far. I got a record deal. And then I felt like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz because the wizard came and said, you're going to need to find your own way home. And I couldn't make an excuse at that point that, well, if one day they would have met me, it would have worked out. They just never met me. And I couldn't delude myself into thinking, because I had met with Atlantic, Interscope, Universal Republic, and the doors were officially like, I was told, like, you are good, but you're not great. And I realized it's not going to happen. And I gave up and I went and got a bunch of day jobs. And one day I was driving in my car and I had to pull over because I was crying so hard I couldn't see. And I said, God, I want you to use me. And now I have no clue. If that's not it, I don't have a clue what's special about me. And I was working at day jobs, wearing a double-breasted suit, living in Brentwood. I was helping this man who sold commercial real estate. And then he'd be every day, he'd be like, good morning. I was like, good morning. Until I caught myself in the mirror of the elevator one day. And I was like, I don't even recognize you. And so I walked into his office and I said, I'm going to quit. And he goes, that's not really smart. I'm paying you really well. And I said, I know, but I feel dead inside and I don't recognize myself. And I quit. And I had no clue what was going to happen next. What happened next is I started asking a better question, like, is there anything in between being a rock star and having a job I hate? And guess what? I started looking for clues. Is there anything else? And I then found people like Ingrid Michaelson who were licensing music, people like Christina Perry licensing. I was like, I'd never even heard the words licensing of music. So I thought, what if I did that? And guess what? I wound up leaving my stupid day job and I was in the studio with my ukulele, and I didn't have to be Beyonce because it wasn't about having the #1 single. There was another way to write music and get paid. And I felt like me. And it was the best gift to feel like myself because I lost her. And not only did I lose her, I thought I had to, because everyone around me said, don't you get it? That's what it means to grow up and be an adult. You don't get to do stuff you like. Get your head out of the clouds. Be realistic, be reasonable, be practical. But my mom, who's been on these calls, who's so amazing, her gifts have been dying inside of her for 60 years. And I know her pain. And I knew that wasn't going to be me. And so I was so grateful. Every day I'd come home from the studio and I wasn't famous, but I got to play with my toys, my shakers, my ukulele, write a song. Then my song was on Pretty Little Liars, Grey's Anatomy, The Office, Parks and Rec. I wrote a song for Coca-Cola. I wrote a song for McDonald's. And I was like, no one even knows. I was flying with my kids. I'd finally fallen asleep. My 2 daughters, I didn't have my 3rd one yet. And my song, we're good together, look at how we shine. It was in a McDonald's commercial and it was on every TV on the plane. We were back then sitting in coach, my daughter wakes me up, mama, that's you. And we went to New York City and we walked into the American Girl doll store. And I wrote a bunch of songs for those. McKenna reaches for this, I wrote a bunch of songs. And so my song was playing and my other daughter goes, mama, that's you. And it's the best thing because I got to be myself, right? And so it was everything for me. It was everything. And guess what happened? God supersized my life because there's more than that. And by stepping into the flow of finally saying, yes, I'm going to do something I love, there were more opportunities to find more gifts. Then there were songwriters saying, how did you do that? Show me. And I, for a while, said, no, I don't teach. I just do. I was like, well, why can't I teach? Maybe I can. And first I would teach people for free. I would just meet them for lunch. Who would I be to charge? And then my friends would say, well, can you tell me the next thing? How did you meet the people from McDonald's? How did you meet the people from Target? How did you send that email? How did you get into the Disney soundtracks? And I was like, maybe I should charge. And then I did. And then guess what? Another gift. One of my students said, you should start a podcast, Kath. And I'm like, me? I went to speech therapy all through grade school. I have the worst diction. I'm not smart. I didn't get straight A's. I went to a state school. She's like, no, you should start a podcast. And I did. And guess what? There were more gifts. And my 2nd episode, I get a text from this woman, Libby McGuire. She goes, I'm a book agent. This is a book. She sends me a check for $100,000. Then what happened next? Everything, right? Rob Lowe reaches out to me. He literally texts me. He's like, I had the best time with you. I'm like, that I'm dead. Like I text him back skull and crossbones, like dead, died, dead. Right. And Matthew McConaughey reaches out, hey, I want to do your show. And by the way, can we talk after? I want you to help me with my own podcast. You're the person I want to be talking to about podcasting. And I'm like, not normal, doesn't happen. What the hell? And now in my house, there's cameras because you'll be seeing me on TV. And the show is amazing. You know what my show is? We're helping people quit their jobs and do what they really want to do. And the people we've met and the casting and these people who deserve to be seen. And I don't know what's coming next, you guys. Do you? It's called being in the frickin' flow state. It's called having the courage to say, enough of the resistance. It took me quitting my job, which was scary as hell, and opening my palms to the possibility, maybe there was another way for me to do something I loved besides something I hate, or this thing that I couldn't attain, which was being the most famous singer in the world and touring the world. And just look, it's like in Field of Dreams where the guy finally gets to play baseball and then there's a kid who falls and they're like, is there a doctor here? And Kevin Costner's like, you didn't get to play. And he's like, you don't get it. What if I didn't get to be a doctor? If I would have gotten that stupid record deal, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be using every aspect of my life force to help other people say yes to themselves. And I said, what did I say in the car that day? I said, God, use me. And I thought the most I had to offer was to open my mouth and sing on stage. No. Maybe, just maybe, what's possible in the quantum right here, in the possibility, in the field of the spectrum of possibility, maybe the possibility for you is bigger than you can see. So I hope that this week I came along and showed you that just maybe there's a bigger possibility. And this is what Colleen knows, because she's been working with me for a while. And this is why she's like, if you're in Kathy's program, it's just different. And it really is. I can't help it. It's who I am. I'm not afraid to cry in front of you because we're all just people, right? And I don't plan it and I don't have an agenda. I just want your absolute highest and best, and I will fight for it, because why else should I be here? What's more important than that, right? My kids need to see that too, because I want them to live that way. So I am doing this. It's called It's Your Turn to Podcast. You should really look at it. If you're having resistance around that, look at that resistance. In any case, won't be for everybody. We don't have room for everybody anyway. We don't take 10,000 people. We don't take 5,000 people. We have a certain number of people. We try to keep it like a nice sized college classroom. So it is what it's going to be. And the Talmud says that anyone who's at a party, it was already predetermined before we were even born who would be at every gathering. So it's all meant to be. So if you're supposed to be there on this journey with me, I'll see you in there. But between now and then, tomorrow, I'm coming back. I will be on Facebook. So if you want to come back and you don't want to make it confusing, you can join us on Facebook. If you want to be like these cute folks and you want to ask me some questions, my producer will be here also. We'll be talking shop about tech, strategy, monetizing, growing your audience, Instagram, social, you name it, it's all on the table. And we'll be doing a wrap up and we'll give away some more prizes and you can join that. We'll send you the link. It's kathyhowe.com/party. That's how you can get onto the Zoom. But you can also watch on this Facebook because it will stream. Thank you guys for demonstrating that so nicely. And if you want to join It's Your Turn to Podcast, tell me in the chat if you're going to come with me on this adventure. You're going to say yes to yourself. We started making a wall of the people's names who are joining. And I love it. I do it with my kids and she writes the name and I hold each name and I'm like, oh, this one, you know, it's like in that story with the starfish and the guy's like throwing the starfish back in on the shore and somebody says, you're never going to get all of them. And he's like, yeah, for this one, it made a difference. So if I can make a difference and we can together link arms and you can have an amazing podcast, you can grow a platform, you can change your life, you can monetize it. Yes, you can. Don't tell me you can't. You look for evidence that you can. It's as good as done. And so it is. So let's go ahead and do it. What do you say? You can go to kathyheller.com/join to join. If you sign up by the end of today, you'll get those bonuses. We're going to extend it just for today. And because not everybody was like, so do 24 hours mean at the end of the live or tonight? I had to ask my husband. I'm like, just till tonight. That's fine. But we'll be back tomorrow. I'd love to see you guys tomorrow. It'll be our last day. And thank you. I didn't even know we were going to share all of this, but thank you for making such a safe space for me to just tell you more of my story. Colleen, thank you. I think you brought it out of me too. Anything else you want to say, or are we good? She's muted. She's like, no.
I just want to leave it there, Kathy, because I don't think there's more that needs to be said. Everything, we can just feel it today. It's so beautiful. So thank you for your presence.
Thank you for being you. I love you guys. Go to kathyheller.com/join to join, and we will be sending you today, not a workbook because we didn't have that kind of a class today, but we will send you a little homework if you want to do some of that. Just a few questions, and we'll be back tomorrow. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of the day. Bye.